The brutal war of attrition in Ukraine has entered a new and terrifying phase. As the Ukrainian Air Force finds itself stalked by an invisible and exceptionally lethal predator, over the past several weeks, Ukrainian military command has reported a deeply alarming spikes in the loss of its combat aircraft, including its prize MiG-29 and Sukhoi Su-27 jets, platforms that form the backbone of its aerial defense. These losses are not occurring in the chaotic dogfight directly over the front lines, but far behind them, in airspaces that was previously considered relatively safe. Ukrainian pilots flying missions to intercept Russian cruise missiles or to provide support for their ground forces are being systematically eliminated from the sky by an enemy they never see. Their aircraft torn apart by missiles that seem to appear from nowhere. This sudden and devastating shift in the air war dynamic has been attributed by Western intelligence and Ukrainian officials to Russia's widespread deployment of its most advanced long-range air-to-air missiles. The R-37M2, a weapon that is fundamentally reshaping the battlefield and posing an existential threat to the continued viability of the Ukrainian Air Force. This development is not merely a tactical setback, it is a strategic crisis that threatens to cede complete air supremacy to Russia, a scenario that would have catastrophic consequences for the Ukrainian war effort as a whole. The introduction of this highly advanced weapon system is a calculated move by the Kremlin, designed to neutralize the impact of Western-supplied aircraft and to break the stalemate in the skies, tilting the balance of the entire conflict decisively in Moscow's favor. The R-37M2, an upgraded variant of the already formidable Vimpel R-37M, is a weapon that embodies the cutting edge of modern aerial warfare technology. It is an exceptionally long-range air-to-air missile designed with a single purpose: to destroy high-value aerial targets from standoff distances that were previously unimaginable. Its operational range is its most terrifying characteristic. Public estimates, corroborated by intelligence reports on its performance in Ukraine, suggest the missile can reliably strike targets at distance exceeding 300 kilometers and potentially approaching 400 kilometers under optimal launch conditions. Put this into perspective: a Russian fighter jet flying safely within its own heavily defended airspace over eastern Ukraine or even within Russia itself can launch the R-37M2 and destroy a Ukrainian aircraft operating over central Ukraine near cities like Dnipro or Poltava. This creates a vast and deadly engagement envelope where Ukrainian pilots are constantly at risk, even when they believe they are flying a secure patrol mission far from any known threat. The missile achieved this incredible range through a specialized flight profile. After being launched, a powerful solid-fuel rocket motor boosts the missile to an extremely high altitude and a speed that reached hypersonic velocities, reportedly in excess of Mach 6, or 6 times the speed of sound. At the apex of its trajectory, in the thin upper atmosphere, the missile conserves energy as it glides toward the target area. This high-speed, high-altitude approach makes it incredibly difficult to intercept. The technological sophistication of the R-37M2 extends to its guidance system, which makes it exceptionally lethal and resistant to countermeasure. The missile employs a multi-stage guidance process. For the initial long portion of its flight, it is guided by inertia navigation with periodic updates from the launching aircraft via a secure data link. The Russian fighter jets designated as launch platforms, primarily the MiG-31BM Foxhound and the Su-35S Flanker E, are equipped with some of the most powerful airborne radars in the world. The MiG-31's Zalzlon M radar, in particular, is capable of detecting fighter-sized targets from hundreds of kilometers away. This allows the Russian pilot to track the Ukrainian jet from a safe distance, provide guidance information to the missile in its mid-course phase, and then turn away long before entering the engagement range of any Ukrainian weapon. As the R-37M2 closes in on its target, it switched to its own active radar seeker. This small, powerful radar in the missile's nose cone allows it to acquire the targets independently and home in for the kill. This fire and forget capability means the launching aircraft is not required to maintain a radar lock throughout the entire engagement, freeing it to engage other targets or to egress safely. This active terminal guidance also makes the missile highly resistant to electronic countermeasures such as chaff or jamming, as its own seeker is operating at close range to the target, providing a clear and powerful signal that it's difficult to disrupt. The combination of extreme range, hypersonic speed, and an advanced seeker head makes the R-37M2 a near-perfect hunter-killer weapon, a technological nightmare for the Ukrainian pilots who must now fly in its shadow. The operational impact on the Ukrainian Air Force has been nothing short of devastating. The established tactics and procedures that allow Ukrainian pilots to survive and remain effective for over 2 years of conflict have been rendered obsolete almost overnight. Pilots are now faced with an impossible choice. To be effective in supporting their ground troops, they need to fly at medium to high altitude where their sensors and weapons can be best employed. But it is at these altitudes that they are most vulnerable to the R-37M2, presenting a large clear target for distant Russian radars. The alternative is to fly at extremely low altitude, using the terrain to mask their approach from radar. While this offers some protections from the long-range threat, it severely limits their combat effectiveness. Their view of the battlefield is restricted. The range of their own weapons and sensors is drastically reduced, and they become highly vulnerable to short-range Russian air defense and man-portable air defense systems, or MANPAD. The psychological tolls on the pilots is immense. They are forced to operate with the constant knowledge that a missile could be hurling towards them at 6 times the speed of sound, launched from an aircraft they cannot detect and from a direction they cannot predict. The first indication of an attack often comes from their aircraft's radar warning receivers, which might only provide a few seconds of warning as the missile's own seeker goes active in the final moments of its attack. This is often not enough time to perform effective defense maneuvers, which are themselves less likely to succeed against such a high-speed, agile weapon. The result is a crippling rate of attrition, not just of the aircraft, but of Ukraine's most precious and irreplaceable military asset, its experienced combat pilots. This new reality in the air has forced a dramatic and painful shift in Ukrainian air strategy. Offensive counter-air missions, where Ukrainian fighters would proactively hunt for Russian jets, have become almost suicidal and have been largely suspended. The critical task of suppressing enemy air defenses, which involve attacking Russian radar and surface-to-air missile sites to create safe corridors for other aircraft, is now fraught with extreme peril. Even the vital defense mission of intercepting Russian cruise missiles and Shahed drones have become more dangerous, as the Russian military can now use its long-range air-to-air missiles to target the Ukrainian interceptors. In essence, the R-37M2 is being used to create a massive no-fly zone for the Ukrainian Air Force over a huge swath of their own country's airspace. This is a deliberate strategy by Russia to systematically dismantle Ukraine's integrated air defense network. By destroying the fighter jets that form the mobile upper tier of this network, Russia aims to create clear skies for its own bomber and attack aircraft. If Russia achieves full air supremacy, it will be able to operate its Su-34 strike aircraft and Ka-52 attack helicopters with relative impunity, allowing them to deliver devastating attacks on Ukrainian troops, concentrations, logistic hubs, and fortified positions. This would spell disasters for the Ukrainian ground force, who would be left without any effective protection from air attack. The war on the ground is intrinsically linked to the war in the air, and the introduction of the R-37M2 represented Russia's most determined effort yet to win that aerial war. The crisis in the Ukrainian skies has prompted an urgent response from the Trump administration in Washington. The alarming intelligence report detailing the mounting losses and the effectiveness of the R-37M2 have been a primary topics of discussion at the highest level of the United States government. Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth has held a series of immersive briefings with Pentagon leadership and the Joint Chief of Staff to formulate a viable counter strategy. The consensus is that simply providing Ukraine with more of the same aircraft will not solve the problem. Sending more MiG-29s or even F-16s into an environment dominated by the R-37M2 without a corresponding solution to the missile itself would be sending pilots and expensive hardware to their destruction. The core of the problem is a massive disparity in situational awareness. The Russian pilots can see the Ukrainian jets long before the Ukrainian pilots can see them. The immediate priority, therefore, is to find ways to close this vision gap and to give Ukrainian pilots a fighting chance. Secretary Hegseth is reportedly championing a new and significantly enhanced package of military assistance specifically tailored to counter this long-range air-to-air threat. This package would move beyond just providing planes and munitions and would focus on critical enabling technologies. The proposed American aid package includes several key components designed to level the playing field. The most significant element is a request for advanced electronic warfare and electronic countermeasure pods for Ukrainian fighter jets. These sophisticated pods are designed to jam or deceive the guidance systems of incoming missiles, including the active radar seeker of the R-37M2. By flooding the missile seeker with false signals, a powerful EW pod can potentially break its lock on the aircraft, causing it to miss. Another critical component is the provision of more advanced ground-based radar system. These radars, with longer ranges and better detection capabilities, could be networked together to provide a better overall picture of the airspace, potentially offering earlier warnings of Russian fighters picking up launch position. The most powerful and potentially game-changing element being debated, however, is the provision of airborne early warning and control AEW&C support. This would involve NATO aircraft, such as the Boeing E-3 Sentry AWACS, flying patrols in the airspace of neighbors NATO countries like Poland and Romania. From these safe locations, the powerful radar on these aircraft could peer deep into Ukrainian airspace, detecting Russian fighters at extreme range and providing real-time, high-quality targeting data directly to Ukrainian pilots via secure data links. This would effectively give Ukrainian pilots the same long-range vision that the Russian pilots currently enjoy, allowing them to detect the threat early and either evade it or position themselves for a counterattack. This option is politically sensitive as it involves the direct participation of NATO assets in the defense of Ukraine's airspace. But many in the Pentagon sees it as the only truly effective solution to the R-37M2 challenge. The diplomatic heavy lifting to secure this new level of support is being managed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He's engaged in intensive consultations with key NATO allies, particularly those in Eastern Europe, to build consensus for providing more advanced support, including the potentials for AWACS patrol operating from their territory. His argument is that allowing the Ukrainian Air Force to collapse is not an option, as it would inevitably lead to a wider and more dangerous conflict as Russia would be emboldened by its success. He's framing the issue as a critical test of the West's resolve to see Ukraine through the conflict. Secretary Rubio is also using Russia's deployment of this weapon as another example of Moscow's escalatory behavior, making the case of the United Nations and in other international forums that Russia is deliberately targeting Ukraine's ability to defend its skies in a way that prolongs the war and maximizes destruction. The ultimate decision to approve this new, more advanced aid package rests with President Donald Trump. His administration is evaluating the request through the lens of its peace through strength doctrine. The argument being made to the president is that providing this technology is not an act of escalation, but a necessary step to restore a stable deterrent balance in the air. It is about protecting the significant investment the United States has already made in supporting Ukraine and preventing a strategic victory for Russia that would damage American credibility and embolden adversaries worldwide. The deployment of the R-37M2 is a direct challenge to the effectiveness of Western military aid, and the Trump administration is now crafting its response to show that American technology and strategic support can adapt and overcome any new threat that Moscow introduced to the battlefield. For Russia, the widespread deployment of the R-37M2 is a calculated and strategic gambit. After years of struggling to gain decisive control of the air over Ukraine, The Kremlin is now leveraging its technological advantage in one specific area to achieve a breakthrough. It is a clear attempt to counter the impending arrival of more Western aircraft and to demoralize the Ukrainian military and political leadership. By showcasing the missile's effectiveness, Russia is sending a powerful psychological message. No matter what platforms the West provides, Russia has the technology to destroy them. It is a form of technological intimidation aimed at eroding the West's confidence in its ability to effectively arm Ukraine and at persuading Kyiv that continued resistance is futile. The missile's success serves as a powerful propaganda tool for the Russian state, a clear example of its military's advanced capabilities that can be touted to its domestic audience and to potential international arms customers. It reinforced the narrative that Russia is a top-tier military power capable of developing and fielding world-beating weapon systems. In the grim calculus of the Ukraine war, the R-37M2 represents a significant escalation in the technological arms race. It has transformed the skies of Ukraine into a far more lethal environment and has presented Ukraine and its Western partners with one of the most serious military challenges of the entire conflict. The struggle for air supremacy has reached a critical tipping point, and the ability of the Ukrainian Air Force to adapt and survive in the face of this advanced threat will be a decisive factor in determining the ultimate outcome of the war. Many of my listeners, like 70%, haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, and so many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed. And that is actually what makes the show going. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask again and again, because it enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, if this is your first time listening to World Global Conflict, you don't have to subscribe. You guys, your first one's on me. But if you have watched this show before, it's like you are a freeloader now. So all I would ask is, if you have seen this show before and you like it, help me, help my team here. Hit that subscribe and like button now. And we will continue to build this show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. I will see you soon. Bye for now.